It's rough out there, in the world. Some of us turn to writing for solace and inspiration. Text that helps us take in the dark and find the light. So if you are someone who wraps themselves in words to warm your heart, or maybe just looking for a little help getting through the day, week, year, join us as we talk to people about the pieces of writing they use to bolster their souls and remember their way. The good bones that remind us we can make this place beautiful. Hello, and welcome to Finding Good Bones, a literary podcast where we talk to people about their favorite pieces of writing that help them sit with the dark but look towards the light. I am one of your hosts, Kate.
I'm your other host, Amy.
And this is the podcast. Oh, God. Someday we're really going to be able to introduce the show well.
It's totally fine. We've got a dork vibe. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's coming into this not already knowing that we're like just big old nerds. Amy, speaking of nerd stuff, what are you reading?
I just finished a book called Everyone on This Train is a Suspect. It's the follow-up to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. It's really fun. It's a fun book. It's one of those like locked room mysteries. There's a train. Some people die. Who did it?
Amy,
it's fun.
You're going to love this.
Yeah.
Because next on my... So I finished Night Bitch last night.
Okay.
Wonderful. Loved it. Everybody who has... everybody should read it. Especially people who've had a human. They should read it.
Okay.
But everyone in my family has killed someone is what is on my to-read list.
You're going to like it. It's fun.
I know. I mean, you're the one that told me I should read it. So I really love that that is what you brought today, because that is what I was bringing today.
It's awesome. Well, I brought the second one, but still.
No, I know you brought... I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, that was clear.
Yeah.
When you said it was...
You're going to like it.
I know. I already know. Well, I am very excited to introduce our guest for this episode. I have known him for a very long time, and he is one of my favorite people. D.L. Nailing is a 6th grade social studies teacher. He enjoys futilely attempting to play the pedal steel guitar. He lives in Maple Valley, Washington, with his longtime girlfriend and their 2 dogs. Hi, DL.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. Grand.
How is it in Maple Valley, Washington?
In Maple Valley, Washington right now is in the 70s, which is it's been a long time coming. So I went out earlier and saw everybody who has a motorcycle is out on their motorcycle. The weather's really nice. So it's nice. We're probably going to get to enjoy this for a few days, and then things will change, and that's just the way it is up here. But right now,
love it. Yeah, I love it because when you're like, oh, it's in the 70s and we've been waiting for it. We're still in Austin, I'm like, oh, you mean you've been waiting for it to cool down? But opposite, I'm assuming.
My students yesterday were like, man, mister, it's so hot. Are you kidding me? It was 80 degrees. Y'all, totally different.
Wow.
What weak little children.
Well, it's just funny,
She says when she gets cold under 65.
Right.
Like 65 hits, and I'm like, oh, pull out the winter coat. What selection have you brought us today?
I picked a song written by Paul Westerberg, who was most famously known as the vocalist, lyricist, primary songwriter for the Minneapolis punk rock, I don't know, band Replacements. So this is a song from a solo album of his in 2002. So it's not as cool as a Replacement song, but I wasn't cool enough to be listening to the Replacements. I also wasn't old enough, because I was probably 4 or 5 when they were really kicking around. But this song was one of the first times I really, really started paying attention to lyrics and the importance of lyrics. I've always been kind of instruments first, lyrics come second, and this is one where the more familiar I became with, the more I was like, wow, this is a really, really great song. There's just a lot to it that really got its hooks into me. So I really like it.
would you be so kind as to read it for us?
I would. And it's strange because when you asked me to pick a work, I wanted to find something that was really strong just on the basis of its lyrics. And now I'm like, now I have to read this without music, and it's going to sound really strange, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It begins with a repetition. It's I want to know, was the garage your playground, your pool a hose? Did you piss in the alley and get your toes caught in the spokes of a bike with a banana seat? Did you carry a knife that was rusted shut tight? You got drunk after church at 13. We may be the ones to set this world on its ear. We may be the ones. If not, then why are we here? I want to know. The sweet smell of candles burnt low by young women, along on their own for the very first time, under posters of rock stars that you vaguely resemble. In front of a cat, a resounding perhaps means that you'll be the next one in line. We may well be the ones, to set this world on its ear. We may well be the ones. If not, then why are we here? Why the hell then are we here? You may well be the next one. Someone sell me a handgun. Goodbye, Ma, I'm done for. It's the law. Tell me what for. You smoke cigarette butts from your brother's green helmet. He wore in that war once where everyone lost, and they taught him to pour coffee and napalm, and traded his storm for an intense calm that just won't let him be. We may be the ones to set this world on its ear. We may well get it done. Why the hell else are we here? We may well be the ones to set this world on its ear. We may well be the ones. If not, then why are we here? If not, then why are we here? We may well be the ones.
Well, those are certainly some lyrics to start paying attention to.
Yeah.
So yeah, how were you first introduced to this song? Do you remember? Was it like a radio situation or?
I remember exactly. This was the fall of 2002. This was my senior year at my undergrad. And a friend of mine on AOL Instant Messenger. Yeah, no, that's how you know. Yeah. He had asked me, because we would just we would talk about music and stuff like that on there. And he said, "Hey, have you been listening to this new Paul Westerberg album?" And I said, "No, I've never heard him before." And he sent me a poorly encoded performance of the song from Conan O'Brien's show when he was doing the show after the show after Leno. And so it was just Paul Westerberg with a 12-string guitar. Playing this in front of a bunch of candles. And the recorded version that's pretty much all it is. It's just him with a guitar. And so he sent me the video. And so I watched the video and I thought, oh, that's a really, really pretty song. I really like that. And then I ended up getting the album and listening to it. And then kind of the more familiar I got with each of the verses, the more I thought, I love the way he's describing these people that I think, having read a biography about the Replacements, I'm like, I think I know who these three people are.
Okay.
And so they're important people in his life, but the descriptions are so vivid in a way that they made me think of people like almost in my life. Not the last verse is very, very different.
Yeah.
But the first two verses in particular, I'm like, those are people like that I think everyone knows. And so I like that. And I like the juxtaposition of kind of this, especially the first verse being this kind of shaggy dog kid, and then juxtaposing it with, well, no, but we're the ones who are going to actually change the world. We're the ones who are going to make something happen here. It's people like these. So I really, really like that.
The whole song kind of does bring up, it's got a very nostalgic, vibe, especially, the first one. I think one of the fun meme things that everybody likes to throw around is like kids of the 70s and the 80s. How it was such a different, like, just go outside, go play, come back.
Oh yeah.
Later.
I was going to say, in that verse, the only thing I didn't do, as far as I know, is piss in an alley. I might have, I don't know. I bet literally every single one of those was a regular thing for me. Yeah. Well, so it did make some nostalgia.
I'm a middle school teacher, and I mean, honestly, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, everything except the banana seat can still apply to kids today too.
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Certain types of kids, like,
Mhm.
and it's just there's these little lines that he throws in. And I think I could tell from your reaction when I was reading them, like there's the resounding perhaps line is really great, but the usage of did you carry a knife that was rusted shut tight? Well, then what's the purpose of carrying the knife? It's just to have the knife. It has no actual utility. It's just, I need to have this to show people that I've got a
that
knife.
I have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
yeah.
sort of thing. So just
Yeah.
little kind of that attention to detail, I just really, really liked. And like I said, it was the first time I was really paying attention to that sort of stuff. And it made me go, well, wait, maybe I want to try my hand at doing stuff like this. And it's tricky because this is so, it's so inspiring to do this, but then you also realize, at least, the way I look at this, I go, well, I'm never going to write stuff like this. It's kind of an entryway, but it's also like this huge barrier. Like, man, you want to, you got to start somewhere, but before you get to this kind of level of stuff. And he was always good at this in terms of taking kind of a punk rock sensibility, but introducing these really deep emotional things. And he kind of sprinkled them into the Replacements discography kind of more frequently as the band went along. I think it almost feels like he was afraid to do it. Like,
well,
I don't want to, get a little too personal here. And he kind of, from what I read, he kept them to himself. And so he played them for other people, and they go, "Are you out of your mind? Like, that song is incredible. Why are you hiding that one away?" That sort of thing.
This is deeply personal.
Yeah, for sure.
And you mentioned that you saw other people in it, but do you see yourself in it at all?
Not really. And that's kind of what I like, is that it reminds me of like people I've known, friends, things like that. And then I've spoken to other people. I'm the type of person who, when I discover something that I really like, I kind of annoyingly am like foisting it upon other people. Like, you need to hear this. You need to hear this. And it's interesting to see which parts of it resonate with certain people. So like, I know, when I played this for my partner years ago, my girlfriend, the last verse resonated with her because her brother was, combat medic and stuff. And she was like, yeah, the whole idea of kind of coming back a different person. Yeah. She's like, yeah, no, I saw that. And that's very haunting. It's very real. It's not something I have any firsthand experience with, but it's just, it's strange. I don't know how to say it because the descriptions are so specific, but they're vague enough that people go, oh, I know that guy. I know that girl. So I don't know. It's just, it's interesting. It's just kind of applicable. It's a weird word to use, but it's got a wide breadth to it, I guess.
But I think that's interesting because then that in a way that allows you to see yourself from the writer's point of view, who is observing and capturing these people. So,
well, it's also, when I submitted this, I really, once I gave it to you, I thought, okay, well now, really, really think about this. And so I was trying to think about how it's written, how it's kind of in second person at some points. And then at other points, it's not, he's switching all, like the first verse is pretty much you, that sort of thing. And the chorus is we, and then he throws in that I want to know.
I want to know. Yeah.
So it's kind of all over the place, but yeah, there's a lot of you, which I really, really like too. I've always been like, wait, is this book written in second person? Ooh, that kind of throws it to the top of the list just because that's kind of interesting. Bright Lights, Big City. That's kind of cool. That's written in second person. So I don't know. It's just, and I think that probably helps too. I wasn't paying attention to stuff like that. And I thought, oh, he's saying you. He's talking about, he's addressing someone in this, which I think.
Yeah. And
what I'm curious because, and Kate, I've spoken with you about this, about kind of wanting to familiarize myself with actual poetry more. But how did y'all? Are there any specific lines that stuck out to you? Just reading this for the first
time. There are several. The carry a knife that was rusted shut tight. I had a tiny pocket knife that wasn't mine. I'm pretty sure I took it from my dad, or I just found it. And it made me feel like a different person.
Yeah.
I think some people carry things and they're like, oh, it makes me feel like me. And I was like, I was like literally an inch long. Like it's nothing big, but I was like, I'm very cool now.
I had one of those too, and it did stand out to me because, as you said a minute ago, Dale, it's like, it's such a perfect picture of a specific person. And it stood out really hard. And then the one posters of rock stars that you vaguely resemble also hit me. It's just such an evocative line.
The sweet smell of candles burnt low by young women alone on their own for the very first time. That one got me because I had like as a young woman, I had I don't know, we were friends at the time, DL, but like I don't know if you remember, I had that old coffee table in my room that was just covered with different, like probably 50 or 60 candles that I'd been collecting. And my mom, because I'd started at home, it was also like, this was a coffee table that had been thrown out by somebody that I just picked up and was like, this will be in my room for a very long time now. It's not weird at all. It's very normal. And I will cover it with candles. And my mom would not let me burn them. She was like, Catherine, that's a fire hazard. And she was not wrong. Right. But so that's exactly like, as soon as I was out on my own, I'm like, every single candle on this table's getting lit at the same time, especially if perhaps a gentleman caller was going to be there. I didn't quite have like posters of rock stars, but I did have a cat. I still have cats. So yeah, I think that in particular, a lot of this, I see other people, but that one I see both other people and bits of myself, as well. And then, oh yeah, you go. The line, and they taught him to pour coffee in napalm and traded his storm for an intense calm that just won't let him be.
Yeah.
I know people, not napalm because that's a different time period, but like that right there, they taught him to pour coffee in napalm. They taught him to pour coffee because he's a kid and he's not been pouring but and then at the same time, like he's learning to pour coffee and then also he is learning to kill people all at the same time. And then the intense calm that just won't let him be, like the very unsettling calm. And you've seen it, Amy. We've known people who have been in the military and something will happen and they go dark.
Yep, they go dark.
And it is exactly that, an intense calm, but it's not, right?
Actually, just the description of an intense calm. I just love that. Yeah, that description of calm being intense. You know, it's like we know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last verse, I mean, I said if I, was older or cooler, I would have picked, something of from the Replacements. And one of the songs with which he's most famous is the song Bastards of Young, where he's talking about this kind of the young men of the 80s. It was like we don't have a whole lot going on. And one of the lines is, we've got no war to name us. And then in this line, I mean, in this song, he talks about, well, okay, this guy did have the war and he came home a completely different person. So do you want it to actually have some kind of sense of you're part of something and have it maybe destroy you? Or do you want it to, it's different. I know his dad, fought in World War II. And, obviously men came home from that war with all sorts of what we now call PTSD and understand. But there was also sort of we're doing the right thing here. This is, this is almost like as good versus evil as we can get. And then to contrast that with this guy, he's saying war that everyone lost. He's pretty clearly talking about Vietnam, and every subsequent war in American history.
Oh no, I know.
I've
heard World War II categorized as the last one we could all agree on.
Right, it made sense. Yeah,
yeah.
And so you're sent off to do this thing, and okay, maybe it makes you part of something, but then you come home and you're rudderless and kind of okay. Well, what was that all for? I don't know that it accomplished anything. And
it's two different types of rudderlessness, if that can be a word. Right? Because that whole idea of we don't have a war to name us, right? We don't necessarily have that not exactly a drive, right? But that sense of not even unity around something, but something,
Yeah.
right? We don't have that. So what are we versus we have this, but now I'm back and I'm different. And what
Yeah.
am I?
Yeah.
I think and I do love, and it fits very well with the theme of the podcast, go figure, but it's these bittersweet and tragic, and a little bit rough, like lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But then the refrain is, we may well be the ones to set this world on its ear.
Mm-hmm.
We may well get it done. Like, I love that it's like the lyrics are, about some, not entirely rough, but.
Well, that's what I wanted to know is what that refrain means, because it could mean bad or good. It could mean setting the world on its ear in a good way or a bad way. What does that mean? Even if it's good or bad, what does it exactly mean? And why the else are we here? That could sound like hopeful, but it could also sound kind of like an existential, nothing means anything.
Well, yeah, it's tricky, especially when he throws in the bridge and the someone sell me a handgun. It's like, okay, well, wait, what are we talking about here? Is this because it does work both ways? And it's strange because when I evaluate it in the context of his larger work, and I go with we'll be the ones who change the world, which honestly, that's every time I listen to it, I kind of come away with it being more hopeful than not. But that's I feel like that's in pretty stark contrast to the rest of the story. So I don't know. And I think that's okay. I'd much rather things be a little bit oblique and kind of a little murky and exciting rather than like, we got this. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't take me anywhere. That doesn't do anything for me. Those sorts of songs don't excite me. They don't resonate with me. It's when I hear something that like I think I'm trying to think of exactly the words you just used, Kate, but they stuck with me, but just this kind of like, these are kind of ramshackle people. And so when I heard songs about people or songs that were played in a way that was like, oh, this song sounds like how I feel.
Yeah.
That really, and it also, and you, like I said, this is when I was senior in college. And so that's when we're starting to really, we're far from finished, but we're starting to kind of figure out, oh, this is kind of who I am and what I like. And so just the whole vibe of this song fits. I think it was John Mulaney when he was talking about being in college. He said, like, I lived like a Ninja Turtle. It was like, yeah, that's kind of where I was. I was smoking way too many cigarettes. I was drinking way too much. And the main thing was I just wasn't getting sleep. And so I was just tired all the time. And so to hear this song, it was like, oh, okay, I got it. I got this. This feels just right to me. So that was another thing. It just felt right. It felt like, not that I have the talent, the ability to write this, but I was like, if I did, this is what I would write. Yeah,
I was going to say, did this feel like a bit of an introduction to what you would want to write?
That sort of thing, yeah. And so, it's the older I get, like I said, we're starting to figure that stuff out. This might have been the time where I went, oh, like songwriting is really important. I kind of went from being like, oh, and this is a very typical guitarist's arc. But like when you start playing, you're like, yeah, guitar solos and fast and loud. and then you go, wait a minute, that's cool. But, if you can do something with just 3 chords or whatever, that's really, really, really impressive. And so I think this might have been where I started with this. So this kind of got me into other artists who were not as, they were guitar players, but they weren't as focused on the wheedly woo stuff and more focused on like, no, make somebody feel something,
Right. And that has, I think the music you play makes people feel things. Even though it's instrumental, but it does.
That's what's funny is, and people, when I was playing Testify shows, it was so funny, and I'd never planned this, but when people complimented me, which always felt really nice, they would very frequently say, "I love your music. It's so relaxing." And I thought, what? And I thought, well, I think a lot of musicians would be like, "What? Like, I don't." But I was like, what a great compliment. Like if I can kind of get you to take it easy for a little bit, that's really, I am serving a purpose. That's great. And so I still like that. I still like this kind of like, you're just sitting here, it's easy. But then lyrically, I mean, this kind of comes in, and again, we're not really discussing the musical aspect of this, but the musical aspect of this is, again, it's pleasant. I don't know that I would say if it's relaxing, but the lyrics are really pretty powerful.
Yes.
So kind of a Trojan horsey thing. Like, hey, I love it. Yeah.
I love a good juxtaposition of a beautiful song with like rough.
Oh yeah.
Either rough or heartbreaking, or, like a love a sad song with happy lyrics, love a happy song with sad lyrics. Love, if it's a gentle song with very turbulent lyrics, because that's what I do think that these are turbulent lyrics, right? It's there's not actually a lot of rest in the people that are being painted in front of us, because even if you think about it, right, even the calm is intense and won't let him be. And coming back to that refrain, we may well be the ones to set this world on its ear. We may well get it done. Why the hell else are we like that? That's not a sit there and hang out sentiment. And so I haven't listened to this song yet, so I'm excited to hear that juxtaposition with the music. But I love what you were saying too, the ambiguity, right? It feels hopeful to me, but not optimistic. And I know we've touched on that with this podcast before, right? Where optimism is like, we can do it, and hopeful is like, well, we might. we could.
There's space for us too. Yeah, we can find.
Yeah, there's some pragmatism. It's just, and it's not we will be the ones. We may be the ones. Why wouldn't it be people like this boy with the knife and the girl on the posters and the guy who came back from Vietnam?
And that's why I also love kind of your insight into this being specific people that he knows, because he's thinking of them and like some arcs and some moments in their life, and they don't sound like kind of who would be traditionally written to be the ones to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not high-standing members of government that we would,
they're not the people I teach my history students about, and I always tell my kids that's the stuff I like. It's the more popular history. Like, no, these are not presidents and generals and political leaders. These are just kind of average people who were somehow thrust into some situation where they had to do something, and they did. And that's more interesting because, not to say that my students won't grow up to be famous and important people, but the vast majority of us don't do that. And that's okay, because, we may be able to do so. We just don't know.
Well, there are people who start it, and then there are the people who get it done.
Yeah, there you go.
And I think that actually who we talk about in history are the people who start it, but it's the rest of us that get it done. Whatever it might be, good or bad. The inclusion
of that line during the outro, I think, is that could be pretty intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you listen to this song? Are there particular times or like moods when you put it on?
That's a really good question. I listen to it pretty frequently. I really, really like this album. For a long, long time, it was only available on CD. And then
when you said you bought the album, I was going to be like, Dave, what did you buy it on?
No, it was a CD. So it came out in 2002. And for the longest time, it was never available on vinyl. And then I think as part of a Black Friday record store day release, they finally released it maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And so it's like, yay.
Were you in Austin and did you get it from Waterloo Records?
No, because it was the Black Friday when I was actually in Houston for Thanksgiving. And so I went to Cactus Records and got it there.
Ooh.
And I went there and I was like, thinking this is going to be the hot item. I was like, do you have any copies of the stereo? And they were like, yeah. We've got a dozen copies of it, kid. Like,
I
I've done that before. I've done that with books where I'm like, I need this book. Are you not sold out? And they're like, nobody else has wanted that, madam. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, good on me then. Thanks.
But I like I said, I've been the guy who's like, you have to hear this, and so hopefully other people. And I've run into a few other people who usually I'll find out like, oh, you're a Replacements fan, and they're like, yeah, that's great. And then I'll say, what do you think about? Like, what do you think about his solo stuff? Because a lot of times that can be pretty divisive. But most of the people I've talked to are like, oh no, that song is incredible. I'm like, okay, good. Like, like you know how just to me that this is just the greatest song that. But I will. I put it up there with anything that he did when he was, when he was the Replacements. Like this song just blows me away. And so it's.
I will say, Dave, DL, I have personally benefited many times from you pushing things on me. So like, please never stop pushing things on people. Right. Every time you said that, we're like, and I'm like, yeah, but it's wonderful. Because I also trust you because you generally have good taste. And I'm always worried that my taste won't live up to yours. So anytime you're like, you need to listen to this, it's amazing. Or you're like, I'm putting this on. I'm like, I'm about to experience something that I will be able to talk about and impress other people with. So, thank you, Dave.
Sorry, I was cutting you off.
No, I was correctly saying your name.
Okay, sorry. This sounds silly, but like when you talk to someone about what's your love language, I'm like, that's my love language. To me, it's not so much, hey, I like this, because I don't do that all the time. It's no, I think you would like this.
Exactly.
It's not like, hey, I found this really great grindcore album, Kate. You really like it. Like, no, it's not that. It's no. I think I know enough about Kate that she would appreciate this. And what's actually really helpful, there have been times, and I love when I have friends who are like, yeah, it's not for me. I'm like, good. Well, good. That's more information to have, so that I know if I have something like this in the future. And you're like, no, this is not my thing. Oh, okay. Well, I was mistaken. That's fine. But I love sharing that sort of stuff.
You've done such a good job. I'm not sure I have one of those where you've recommended something to me, and it hasn't like been on the nose.
I'll find a grindcore album.
Yeah, but here's the deal, Dave. I might love it.
Yeah, okay. Right.
I'm not generally into grindcore, but like I do love, I love wide genres of music when they're good. So it would be really funny if you did and you were like, this is the one for you. And then it was. And it was.
Well, that's a challenge. I'll have to start.
I mean, it's okay. Don't do it right now. But and I just want to know, like you mentioned that you were into the diddly and that made me. Have you been on any other podcasts, Dave?
The Deedly. Yes, I was to connect it back. Yeah, the Testify shows in Austin. I met one of the storytellers there. I don't know if it's like I know his real name, but I don't know that I should use it. So he told
Tex Ramon is
we'll go with that. So Tex Ramon, who I met at Testify, was introduced as having done I guess then still going on extant podcast about David Lee Roth, and so I kind of joked with him after his Testify show, like, and was basically just talking about funny David Lee Roth lines. He said, "Well, you have to come on the podcast," and so I was on the David Lee Roth Quote of the Week podcast. And I forget what the quote was, but he said, we're going to talk about some stuff. Like, we'll talk about, there was this thing called the Van Halen's Lost Weekend trip. And it was an MTV special where some kid got flown out to Van Halen in like Cleveland and just spent the weekend with them. And like, he barely survived.
That does not feel responsible at all, MTV.
Yeah. Well, he had to sign like a hold harmless agreement. And this was a kid who he had suffered a traumatic brain injury at a frat party. And then like shortly after recuperating, went on the road with Van Halen for a weekend.
No.
In 1984. It's like, good Lord.
No.
Yeah. And like at the absolute peak of their
debauchery and substance.
This den of iniquity on the road. Yeah.
Wow.
But so that was just a blast talking about stuff like that. I love talking about just kind of goofy stuff like that. So So that was a nice little connection, a nice little friendship to make through Testify.
Yeah. We will be sure to see what we can dig up and include in the show notes on that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, I think that's a podcast.
That's a podcast.
Feels like a podcast.
Yeah.
We do not have, I think, for today, a recommendation for a Finding Good Bones selection, personalized selection. But maybe next episode, we've been able to do it now. We've done it.
People are requesting.
A couple of people have written in. So if you, dear listener, would like a personalized selection, if you're going through something or just looking to kind of expand your oeuvre, is that sure. Double check on that word. But if you're looking to expand your own pool to dig into and you want to write in, if you go to our website, findinggoodbones.com, and then go to the contact page, just fill out that little form. And we, as a closing bit for one of our episodes, will pick out something specifically for you and either what you're going into or what you tell us or what you're going through or what you tell us you are into. Yeah. Thank you, DL.
Thank you, Kate and Amy. This was fun.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Don't leave.
Yeah. And
sorry. Don't after we press stop. Don't leave. I will cut this out.
Or don't. We'll see how.
Well, we didn't tell them this part. We didn't tell them not to leave.
I know. In our prep work. Sorry, dear listener.
Yeah.
You don't go yet either. We're still signing off. Thank you, DL.
I'm cutting that out.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining us as we go finding good bones.